Bingo was his name.
And you weigh the right things on the right side and the wrong things on the wrong side.
Cosine equals 87 divided by 105, the square root of 105.
I mean, I can't always be their little girl.
Middle childhood. It's a time when we get to know ourselves and others.
And I try to not hurt anyone's feelings and not try to pick on them. And I try, if they're people that I really don't know that well, I try to get to know them. Active and passive.
We learn things about who we are, what we can do, and what we expect for ourselves.
I think when I grow up, I think I'll probably have a family, be middle class, not like real rich, real poor. I mean, be happy.
To many, this may seem like a happy, carefree time. Yet these years of development can bring achievement or failure, friendship or rejection.
Some people just can't cope with being around other people and stuff. And that's probably why they're not popular. I think a girl gets popular by her looks and by her personality, but not by, like, the clothes she wears. If I liked a boy, I'd rather have someone that was nice, not like go, like if you got mad or something, go beat up someone or something. Mm-hmm. It's not a good way to deal with your anger.
I think what makes a boy unpopular is maybe if he's shy or doesn't have too many friends and is maybe just afraid to play with other people because maybe he thinks that he's not good at the sport or the game that they're playing.
Or people think that he's not tough.
As children grow and develop from ages 6 to 12, their world becomes increasingly real and competitive.
Middle childhood is a marvelous period of development, and there is a great deal going on. First of all, the child is proving to him or herself and the world that they're a competent individual, that they can master tasks, that they can achieve goals that they set. So this is the real world, middle childhood. It's not the fantasy world of the preschooler. It's the actual world of concrete achievements. Secondly, this is when we learn to function in a group, is in middle childhood, to be part of a group. At the same time, in middle childhood, it's the first time that children develop very special, close friendships.
I think a true friend is someone who's always there to help you. They always stand behind you, and if someone starts picking on you or something like that, hopefully they'll stick up for you if you can't stick up for yourself.
Preschoolers have friends, even toddlers have friends in a certain sense, but they're not the durable, vital friendships that you have in middle childhood.
As I see it, middle childhood is a period of intensifying transitions. The child is making transitions out of family into school, out of family into peer group, so that there's much more time spent away from the family, much more time spent in the presence of other people who have important influences on the child. That means that the child also has to have a new set of skills for dealing with people who are different from the people he's dealt with inside his family.
One of the things we've found is that most children begin school having very high perceptions of their competence. In fact, we've done quite a few studies on young children now, and most kindergartners tell us that they're the smartest kid in the class, in whatever way we ask. As children get older and have more experience in a peer setting, they begin to make more accurate, more realistic judgments about their competencies. And they become increasingly interested in comparing their competencies to other children. It could be in any kind of activity that the children participate in which performance is measurable and in which there could be, even if it's not explicit, some level of competition.
Oh, that was your best one. Very good. That one's
I think all kids, when they start out in gymnastics, they're doing it because it's fun. It's a very pleasant activity to be involved in. It's a lot of fun doing this. As they get into levels of competition, they'll start setting other goals for themselves, where the main incentive is not just to come to the gym and have fun every day, but it's now I want to go to this meet and I want to win this event, or I want to go do this and I want to achieve this.
I think you can go.
My dreams are to go to the Olympics and get a medal on one of the events and hopefully in the all-around. And if I can't accomplish that, I'd like to get a scholarship to college with it.
Side leap. If she can continue this way, this is the best routine I've seen Kathy do. What a way to finish!
Yes.
The highlight of her life right in front of her. What a way to end.
I have the most wonderful memories of starting gymnastics. It was the ultimate play. At that point, I didn't realize I was going to do it for 13 years longer at a very high level when it would become difficult, very hard, very frustrating at times. I quite honestly don't think there's anything wrong with a young athlete trying to please their parents and trying to please their coaches, as long as that's not the sole motivation and the sole reason. That it should first be for themselves and at the same time the people that are most important to them.
Now, no matter what I do to you, you have to stay straight. Here we go. Come on, stay straight. Straighter. Come on. Oh, keep that bottom up. I'm going to throw you around and catch you, and you have to stay straight. When the children first come in, when they're 6 and 7 years old, I find that they, I need to give them lots of attention, and they care very much what I say to them. Let me see you try that again. Chin up pretty. You can go on flat foot. That's my girl. Stretch. Oh, that's so much better. Very good.
Elizabeth just kind of does it because she likes doing it. She really actually enjoys the physicalness of it. She's not into competition. They haven't competed yet. She likes putting on the little shows that they put on. So to her, it's just fun. She hasn't begun a comparison yet, although I think she's aware there's other girls that are better than she is. It doesn't bother her. And I think Katie's harder on herself. She sees talents that other girls may have that she would wish she would have, maybe even understands that's not going to be one of her talents, and it frustrates her.
As they get older, they care more about what the other children think. They care more about, if little Susie learned a handstand on the balance beam, then they want to learn one too. When they're younger, they don't care so much about that sort of thing. They care more about what I think of them. As they get older, that definitely changes. It's important that their peers think that they're doing well also.
Do you have a buddy? She's at workout right now. She's better at some events than I am, and I'm better than her in some events. So it kind of makes us equal. We usually score around the same thing in competition. So it's kind of fun to work with each other. Sometimes, like right now, we're doing optional routines. So we all have different routines, and they've kind of started her routine. She has her mount and a little part to her routine, and I really don't have anything except kind of a mount. They haven't decided yet. And I kind of feel left out sometimes, but then I just work harder because I want to do the same thing.
During the middle childhood years, there's a period where the child's self-esteem tends to go down slightly because they are just becoming cognizant of the fact that there are other people in the world who can do things better than they do them, whatever the activity is. And it takes them a while to accept that and come to grips with it. It's very important for children at that age to become good at something. But I don't think every child should try to be an athlete or need to be an athlete, but they should be involved in music or drama or anything that you can get them involved into where they can come to feel that they are accomplished at something.
While not all journeys toward competence end in mastery, the young child does develop a lasting sense of self that is largely shaped by others. We enter elementary school eager to learn and to belong, but school provides both a playground and a testing ground, a place where we prove ourselves to others and learn there are limits to our abilities. School is indeed the threshold to the more adult-like world of expectations, failures, and successes.
Passing out the manipulatives to each team member.
How many kindergartners would be told that their drawing is not very good? Or that, well, it's okay, but it's a B minus? You don't do that. We tend to respond to a kindergartner's drawing with great enthusiasm and praise, almost regardless of what it looks like. So it's not too surprising in some respects that they have pretty positive views of their performance, because in fact, for most children, that's the kind of feedback that they get. Then they go into first, second grade, and they begin to get grades on their work. They get their math homework back with it marked 11 wrong, or they get a spelling test back with 7 wrong on it. And so the kind of feedback that they get allows them to begin to make judgments that are not necessarily so positive, especially if they begin to look around the room and find out what other kids are doing, and they find out that they got 9 wrong and the child next to them only got 2 wrong. It can have a depressing effect on some children. And one of the things we can do to make sure that the negative effects of this decline in perceived competence, this trend toward becoming more realistic, more accurate in your understanding of how you compare to others, is to value variety so that all children can excel at something and feel good about themselves.
All finished and it looks great. Can you tell me all the shapes you used?
So when we ask children to explain how they know that they're smart, or that they're not very smart, or that they're high performers or high achievers or not particularly high achievers, or that they're good at math or not particularly good at math, we get different kinds of answers.
Michelle, I'm going to ask you how smart you are, okay? Pretend that these are all the children in your class. This is the smartest child, this is the next smartest, this is the next smartest, and this child way down here isn't smart.
Okay.
Could you tell me which child are you? How smart are you? Okay, you're the top one?
That one.
You're the second one. How do you know that you're the second smartest in your class?
Because I'm not that smart.
Because you're not that smart?
We also have been interested in children's criteria for judging their competencies. The younger children tend to give us a response that we code as mastery-oriented. They tell us something that they can do.
What else do you know about?
Bees.
You know about bees? And what else do you know about?
Ants.
And ants? Does that show that you're the smartest in the class?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
The older children tend to give a normative response. They tell us what they can do in comparison to other children.
How else do you know that you're smart?
I ask for more and more homework than anyone else does.
So the response they give us, their explanation, clearly indicates that they're using comparisons to judge their abilities because it's contained in their answers. There's a third change that we've seen, a third shift over the middle childhood years related to children's judgments about their competencies, and that has to do with their perception of the malleability of competence. Very young children really see smartness or competence very much the way adults would refer to skill, something that with some practice and effort it will improve. Most sixth graders claim that the child who's not doing very well or is performing relatively poorly could improve, and they could improve a fair amount, but they would never be the best. So they see competencies as something that is more stable, less malleable, less changeable, amenable to practice or effort. And that has important implications.
The next word, Eric, is pollution. Spell it.
P-O-L-L.
One of the things that researchers have suggested and found some evidence for is that self-esteem is based partly on your judgments of your competencies, but what's really important is that you have perceptions of high competence in areas you value.
P-O-L-L-U-T-I-O-N?
Correct, write it.
During the middle childhood years, we develop a deep and complex sense of self-worth or self-esteem. This feeling of how much or how little we value ourselves may directly impact all areas of development.
Self-esteem refers to the child's feelings about themselves, and it usually is used in the sense of high self-esteem. If you have high self-esteem, this means that you basically value yourself. Prior to middle childhood, the child certainly has a beginning sense of self, and they can describe themselves in various ways. But their descriptions are piecemeal and often about physical characteristics. In middle childhood, the child begins to describe themselves in more psychological terms. I'm kind. I'm a thoughtful person. The child also begins to define themselves in comparison with other children. And more importantly, the child begins to bring together the various aspects of the self.
We see that some children persevere, while others with equal skills give up easily. Perhaps self-perception also affects self-motivation.
One motivational pattern we've studied is called the helpless pattern. In this pattern, when children confront failure, they start questioning their ability, they begin showing lots of negative emotion, and their performance falls apart. The other pattern we call the mastery-oriented pattern. These children maintain positive emotions, maintain optimism, and maintain very effective strategies in the face of failure. We began to discover that children with these patterns were really pursuing different goals. The kids who showed the helpless pattern were so concerned with performance goals, with measuring themselves and doing well and proving their ability. Therefore, when they failed, they saw it as reflecting on this ability and became discouraged. Children who showed this more persevering, mastery-oriented pattern tended to focus on what we call learning goals. Instead of proving their ability, they want to improve it.
Oh, you did make it!
You would think children with high ability would be challenge-seeking, resilient, or children with, quote, lower ability would be more fearful of a challenge, more debilitated by failure. It's not the case. There are no ability differences. These are psychological differences that are unrelated to actual ability.
School-age children not only gain a sense of who they are and what they can do, they also develop a social sense, a sense of where they fit in. This occurs as the child's world expands to include relationships with other children.
Friendships become somewhat more important in middle childhood, but the really big change in middle childhood is that friendships take on a different quality. Friends are not just people you play with in your neighborhood. They're people who share your thoughts and feelings in whom you confide things. This is especially true with girls, but that may be partly because girls talk about it more freely.
Best friend is somebody who will always stick by you and who will talk to you and understand everything that you have to say.
For both boys and girls, the quality of friendship changes very dramatically in middle childhood.
Paul's my best friend because I like his personality and his sense of humor. I think I'm glad I have friends. Yeah, me too.
School-age children can develop closer, truer friendships and typically seek out a best friend, a chum. They also become very much concerned with their status within their peer group. So personal relationships expand to social relationships.
By social status, we mean the child's acceptance in the group. We mean a child who gets on with everyone, who's a good colleague, who's a good working partner. These children, these popular children that are well-liked by other children in their class are really nice kids to be around.
Someone that laughs a lot, and he's not only nice to his best friend, but he's nice to all the other kids around him, and he's just real likable.
other children who are not accepted by the group, who are what we call rejected by the group. And they tend to be, at least for boys, the ones who start fights. And although there isn't as much research done on girls, we suspect that they're the girls who are kind of mean and may be verbally aggressive, although not physically aggressive.
Well, a lot of times we're just walking back from break and she'll like provoke her friends to try and make fun of me and stuff when I haven't done anything.
Is there anyone in your class that really doesn't have a best friend?
No, not really.
So everybody has a best friend?
Yeah.
And do they keep the same best friend all the way through the year?
Yeah, usually. I mean, only once or twice in my class someone's broken up with their friend, but they still sort of hang out with each other, just they don't like each other as much as they did.
What we find is that a surprising number of friendships that began in the first years stay all the way through the school, even if they are of disparate status. In other words, a popular kid and a rejected child, if somehow they are friends in the beginning, they do manage to stay friends. Now, this doesn't happen to all pairs.
Because there were so many friends that I had last year, they weren't my friends anymore.
How come they aren't your friends anymore?
They were silly.
Yeah. So they changed, do you think?
Yeah, they kind of changed.
Sometimes when we talk about friendships and children, we think that they're all wonderful and pleasant, but they're not. Children fight with their friends, and they learn to fight. They learn to fight fair. They learn to resolve conflicts. They learn to maintain a relationship after a conflict. These are difficult and hard, but necessary skills that need to be learned. Now, is there anyone in your class that you really don't like and would not like to be friends with?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about that person?
Yeah, he's a smart aleck.
And what kinds of things does he do that make you not like him?
Well, he does tell me to shut up a lot. And I don't like it.
Children learn how to enter social groups with peers. They learn, if they're successful, they learn to notice what other children are doing, how to have their activities blend or integrate, how not to come in and take over the group. There's rather instant feedback from peers. If you aren't doing something they like, they usually let you know it pretty fast. And so there are a lot of social skills that can be learned quite directly from peers.
To be accepted by peers, children learn norms for social behavior. They follow unwritten but rigid rules that are often drawn along lines of gender.
They're very concerned about mastering the rule system and following the rules. The rules are, for example, you may interact with someone of the other gender if you are accompanied by a companion of the same gender, you are ordered to do so by an adult, it's an accident, you hurl an insult while you do it.
They act really mean to you. If you like them and they find out, they act all rude to you. They act all cool, like a ego war or something. Oh, this girl likes me, you know? I mean, it's kind of embarrassing. Why do you guys have such strong egos? I have no earthly idea.
I mean, if you by chance go to the lemonade table to get some more lemonade and two girls come up at the same time, you're in a tough situation. Well, you've got several options. You get away from the lemonade table. You dash for the lemonade, grab it, and run before they get there. You call them ugly. You have to do something. You have to have a cover.
Boys play with boys and girls play with girls because boys don't want to be embarrassed because, they might be the only boy over with all the girls.
I like to, in my class, start out tongue-in-cheek talking about a disease that exists in the world. And it's a disease that you can only get when you're 10 years old. You can get it by if you're a boy sitting at the girls' table at lunch, you'll certainly get it then. You can get it by somebody accusing you of liking somebody of the other gender and not saying, "What? I don't, she's ugly." You can get it. Well, eventually, to make a long story short, everybody in the class knows the disease you're talking about is cooties or boy germs, depending on your gender and your background, which term you'd use. This is serious business. You can get this. You have to follow these rules, very complex rules that kids know.
I think boys like to play with boys because they enjoy the same things. I mean, some girls don't like to play sports. Or like go around shooting people with pretend guns or something. I mean, I think, or because they're afraid, like if they start playing with girls, people will call them sissies or something. And if girls play with guys, they'll be called tomboys. Yeah, so they kind of stay by themselves in little groups.
So you must follow the rules to be accepted in the peer group. You can't, if you're a boy, go play with the girls. That's violating a rule. You have to take turns. You have to be fair. There has to be equity. The basic understanding of fairness and reciprocity is inherent in these norms in the peer group. Children learn fundamentally important things during these ages between, say, 6 and 10 or 12 years of age. Some basic foundations for moral development.
From the first day of school to the brink of adolescence, children mature through inner discovery and outer social interactions. During this time, the child develops an enduring and complex sense of self that profoundly affects peer relations, friendships, and beliefs about competence. Ultimately, it is the interplay of these inner and outer forces that shape the emotional and social development of the child.